If we are to compare the world the way it was before the flood and the way it was after the flood, we're going to find an inconsistency. Before the flood, a full lifetime was 600, 700, 800, even over 900 years was how long a person could be living for. Post-flood, seems like the world went into a decline, became much weaker. A full lifetime became 120 years, generally. Torah puts it that way. Avram lived 175, 180, no more than 200 years, which seems like a drastic difference to the way the world was before. Obviously, the world then was much stronger, more robust, and the world was weakened from the flood. However, at the same time, the world the way it was before the flood was able to be destroyed. Hence, the Mabul happened to that world. The world, the way it was post-flood, Hashem gave a promise that he's never going to destroy the world. That world that's much weaker, that's going to last. And he gave us a sign of a rainbow. So the obvious question is, which one's stronger, which one's weaker? First, when you look at it first, the world pre-flood seems much stronger. Post-flood seems much weaker. But on the other hand, the world pre-flood could be destroyed. The world post-flood can't be destroyed. How are we to make sense of that? And why is it specifically that the rainbow is the sign that the world in phase 2, the world post-flood, is never going to be destroyed? So to answer this, let's take this in personally to our own lives. We also have two phases to our worlds. Phase 1 is our ideal world, the way we plan our lives to look like, the way we plan what our children's lives should look like, our own lives, our family lives, our ambitions, our dreams. And in the world in phase 1, our job is just to flex that and try to take that as far as we can. But for too many of us, often that world gets destroyed, either through failure, through tragedy, through a trauma, or anything in between. Often world 1, the way we wanted things to look like, the way we wanted our childhood, or our children, or our shalom bayis, or our family life, etc. The way what we wanted that to look like at some point just shatters. And now what? Now we're at a phase 2, which looks much weaker. Our world at phase 1, which seemed like a strong man, flexing as strong as he can, you have a bruised, limping person with a cast and crutches that's just trying to take one step after the other step. When you compare the two, obviously, phase number 1 seems much more ideal, much more perfect, has much more to offer than phase 2. However, if you look a bit deeper, phase 2 can no longer express a perfect life. But a perfect life comes and goes. We're created beings, we're small. There's only so much our perfect dreams could last until they go bust. There's only so far they could take us. Phase 2 of life, which is once we failed, once we're broken, but we keep showing up with our whole broken hearts to mend and to rebuild as much as we can in that space of looking to rebuild and showing up completely while broken, that brings out a certain endurance and resilience, and that can never break. The more a person's broken, the more he could keep showing up. If he learns to flex a new muscle called resilience. And that means he'll never break. Person number 1, or the world in phase number 1, could break because it's perfect. And human perfection in a creation is very fragile. But when life breaks and you keep showing up as wholeheartedly as you can, with as much joy as you can, that brings out a new muscle. That brings out something much deeper. That world can never break. And this is expressed in a rainbow, which is another benefit, so to say, that's given to the second person. The first world could express godliness through its strength, through its majesty, through the splendor of the world the way it was ideally created by Hashem. But that could only express so much godliness. At the end of the day, it's finite and it's limited. The world the way it is at phase 2, a broken world, is not expressing Hashem through its qualities or through its ego. Its ego broke. Now it's expressing Hashem infinitely, through the lack of it. It's broken, but it's still there in its relationship with Hashem. That expresses that the limited relationship with Hashem, the one that seems to make sense, broke, and now we bring out in phase 2 a relationship with Hashem that goes beyond what makes sense. Now Hashem's rainbow could shine. What's a rainbow? A rainbow is that the sun's rays reflect off of the water in beautiful colors. When the world is too coarse, it can't in world number one was much stronger, but it was too coarse to reflect Hashem's infinite majesty. World number 2 did become weaker and more resilient, and with its ego to the side, is able to express godliness. After brokenness, you were able to express godliness much, much more than you could in phase number 1. That's what Hashem was showing through the rainbow. Yes, the world did break. Things did not go as planned. But now you could express my infinite majesty. And this world, through the rainbow, I'm going to show you that this world, if you learn to show up broken, but keep showing up and do what you can, that world never, such a world that could keep showing up with brokenness could never really break, and that's going to last forever. It goes, as the famous mashal goes, the difference between a picture and a portrait, a photograph and a painting. A photograph is perfect. A painting is very imperfect. But which one's more expensive? A photograph, we know how to take a photograph with our phones. A nice photograph would go $100, $200. A painting could go for thousands and thousands, maybe $1 million. Because it's humanity, the soul invested in a painting comes out in its imperfection. Ultimate infinity comes out in the imperfection of life, not necessarily in the phase 1 perfection of life. Have a good Shabbos, everyone. All the best.